So today I'm playing with one of my favorites with his chipboard, and here's something I haven't tried before, but I don't know why I never thought of it. So I took 3 chipboard keys and I stacked them together and glued them. So these are identical chipboard shapes, so you can see how thick that makes it, and yet the design is still just as intricate as always. So there's how thick, you can kind of tell there's 3 layers in there. And then the reason I did that is because I want them to dangle on the outside of my album here. And I think because of them just dangling free, I need them to be very strong so that when I put this album in and out of my shelf, or people are handling it, or it might get caught on things, I just want it to be super strong. So that's why I put the 3 together, and that seems to have accomplished the strength, and also I like the look of that thickness on there. But now I want to alter the color, so it's not just the plain chipboard color. So we'll just move my final project here out of the way, and I'm going to use this embossing dauber. You could also use a very common one as a Versamark ink pad. This is the same type of fluid inside, but in a bottle shape with a dauber on the top, which I really like for chipboard because you can, it's just easier to maneuver than an entire ink pad. So I'm going to get the whole, well, maybe not the whole thing. I may end up just doing part, and that way I can hold on to the bottom part. So you might be able to see the color change here, where from this area here up, you can see the wet look. Down here by my fingers, it's dry because I didn't add any of this embossed dauber down in that area. So wherever it's wet, I'm going to get my embossing powder to stick to it. And I am using a mixed media embossing powder. You can choose whatever color you like for chipboards. There's such a variety. Makes it very fun. So I just pour it on there very generously, shake off the excess just onto a piece of paper that I folded in half. And that way, because I have that fold in there, makes a nice little pouring spout. And I'm just pouring it right back into my jar so that I'm not wasting any of it. And then you can see where none of it stuck down here, where I did not put the embossed dauber, but I'm just going to use that as an area to hold on to with my fingers so that I don't burn myself. This is one thing I would say, don't do what I'm doing. You should really use something like, tongs or tweezers or a clipboard or something like that to hang on to it so that you're not getting the heat too close to your fingers, but I take a few risks that I probably shouldn't. So here we go with heating it. I hold my heat gun, as you can see, pretty close, but the closer you hold it, the closer you gotta watch that you're not making things smoke. And maybe you can see it melting on here. I just love watching embossing powder melt. I like that effect as it's changing. So there we have some of it melted, and it's giving it kind of a rusty old key effect. And then I'm going to just put some of this dauber on the bottom there where I haven't put it yet. And then this should be cool enough. Yeah, it's cool enough to touch. So just keep in mind though, when you melt this, it's like melted plastic. So you want it to harden up, which just takes a couple of minutes, a few seconds. But if you put it under the heat and while it's hot and in a fluid form, you touch it, it's going to stick to your finger and keep burning. So you do want to let that cool for a moment before you touch it or pick it up. So now I can put this on the bottom. I'm just kind of repeating that same process. And I can heat up this portion of it. So you might be able to see right now that it's very powdery. It might not show on camera, but now it turns to very fluid, even bubbles a little bit. And then it's all nice and melted.
And that is how I chose
And
the
you might
dies that I
even
was going to
see
be working with.
And I also, because I have this so thick with the 3 layers, I want to attempt to put some powder cover the edges of it here too, so that you wouldn't even be able to see that I've layered it. I just want it to look like one thick key. So I'm going to try that here. Nice thing about my dauber, it can go into some of those crevices. I don't know that it'll go into all of them, but we'll get into some, maybe not quite into the corner there. I think that's as far as I'll go, because I'm just going to do a portion at a time here. I'm just going to push that aside for now. Doing this a little bit dangerous, keeping my embossing powders open, but we'll try it. So here's another thing I can do. Rather than put the next layer with the dauber, while this is hot and melty, I'm just going to pour some on here, and it'll stick to whatever is still melted. See how much is stuck on there? A lot. And now it's kind of giving me a second layer, so it'll help to fill in any little spots where I may not have gotten too much dauber or enough dauber. Okay, and then where I want to fill in, like this area, I see I missed it with the dauber, but I am going to let this just cool for a minute because I don't want to put my dauber right on top of melted embossing powder, so I'll just let it cool for a minute, or I could go on and do another area. You can also get this dauber fluid in the format of a marker, and that would really get into that little corner area there even better. I have one. That just means I'd have to dig it out, but I think this is going to do it. Here's that key along with a block, which is also chipboard, made in the same manner as the key. I added 3 layers of the same chipboard lock together. Then I have used a Tim Holtz chain on there, attached it to the front of an album. This is an album that opens up this way, so you can see the lock and the key when you're opening on the inside as well. And that's using that newest paper line from Stamperia called Magic Forest. Loving that.